Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are in the country. I am Dr. Jacqueline King, and as you know, we bring exciting people to you that are doing amazing things. And today will not disappoint you. I have Claire Babineaux-Fontenot, and she is the CEO of Feeding America, which is so amazing. I'm so glad to be a part of it. I'm going to read you a little bit of her bio. Actually, it's really long, but I love it. She is a leader, advocate dedicated to combating hunger and strengthening communities. Oops, what happened? Okay, I think I lost you. Hold on. Okay,
I'm still here.
something just popped up.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. And communities. Her decades-long service is in social justice and humanitarian efforts is emblematic of her unwavering commitment to working alongside people experiencing food insecurity to create sustainable, equitable solutions in the movement to end hunger. Since 2018, Claire has served as the Chief Executive Officer of Feeding America, a network of food banks statewide, food bank association, food pantries, and meal programs, and the largest charity in the United States since 2022, according to Forbes. Prior to joining Feeding America, Claire has been entrusted to lead effective teams for 3 decades, including 13 years on Walmart's leadership team, most recently as Executive Vice President and Global Treasurer, where she had global responsibilities for tax, treasury operations, capital markets, investor relations, global risk management, casualty, and self-insurance, leading teams across 28 countries and over 1,000 associates worldwide. A Louisiana native, Claire holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Louisiana in Lafayette, a Juris Doctor from Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, LA, and a Master of Laws in Taxation from Southern Methodist University, Dedman School of Law in Dallas, Texas. Claire was named one of Time's most 100 most influential people in 2022. Yay! In 2021, she was honored with PRWeek's Communicator of the Year Award and Southern Methodist University's Distinguished Alumni Award. Claire was among Forbes 50 over 50 in 2022 and in 2023 in American Association of State Colleges and Universities honored Claire with the Distinguished Alumnus Award. Her relentless pursuit of an equitable, hunger-free American exemplifies her as a trailblazer and a compassionate advocate for social justice. I love that bio. Good morning, everyone. When you come in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Claire, that's amazing. I mean, you're so accomplished, but yet you're so humble.
Oh.
I love that about you. So we're going to get into the food bank in just a minute, but I want to talk about you and Black women right now. And I mean, it's all over the news. Black women are facing so many challenges right now in corporate America and media. I know you've seen probably Taraji Henson and different ones talking about. As an extremely accomplished woman, do you have any advice to offer? Because you've done a lot.
Wow. Well, I think first off, let me say thank you so much, Doc, for having me here. I was inspired the moment I saw your face when we had the opportunity to meet in person not that long ago. Excited that now I have the privilege of engaging with this incredible force of nature that you're a part of. So thank you for having me on. It's an interesting thing. You talk about humility in your introduction of me. And I don't think of myself as being falsely modest, but I am truly finite. And life has taught me about where I have strengths and has also helped me to understand that I am not everything. One of my little expressions I use, in fact, is I'm not everything, but I'm really something. And my encouragement to people out there, anyone who will hear the sound of my voice, is to recognize that you're not broken. And society sometimes tells us that we're broken, suggests to us that there's one model and we've got to fit into that. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Um, you are made especially. So we have a responsibility, I believe, to really understand how we're built, to acknowledge and celebrate our great talents, to understand what we're not built for, to acknowledge when we're not the right one to do a particular thing, and then to go about a life where we're engaging with other people who have skills that we don't have and celebrating differences every place that we find them. That would be probably my best advice to people. You are not broken. You are built especially and well.
I love that. That's some great advice. Everyone, please share the broadcast. I always tell you, share the broadcast. When did you realize that you wanted to work in the area of serving others? It seems like that's something you've been doing pretty much most of your life.
Well, I've known it my whole life. I have a unique family story. I think you know that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the rest of your audience doesn't, so it might benefit us for me to ground everyone in that. So I am one of 108 children through biology, adopting, and fostering. It's all I've ever known my whole life. It's just my one big crazy family. And one of the things that could not be denied in our family was that often people don't get what they deserve. I The normal pathway into our family was through something being broken in the one you were born to. I have siblings who have been through so much. I've lived a life where I've known, um, as long as I have a recollection, that I didn't earn every blessing that I had, that grace was sustaining me. And it instilled in me a sense of responsibility to do something with that. So it's something I've known, I've seen. I also saw the power of just one person or two people to do extraordinary things. I witnessed it in my parents, who were both grandchildren, the children of sharecroppers.
Mm.
Neither had the privilege of even graduating from high school. And yet their legacy is vast and it's deep. And it includes me. It includes this very moment. So I saw how powerful each of us are, and how when you try to give to others, the giver receives. So this is something I've been walking around with my whole life, and I've been trying to engage in communities wherever I've been. In my work life, I've had unique opportunities no one else in my family ever had. So I graduated high school, and then you heard bio, high school, undergrad, law school, and then law school again. Um, and kept getting chances to do all kinds of beautiful things, and kept saying yes to all of those opportunities while dabbling in this hard work on the side. And then while at Walmart, in that last role that you described, Dr. King, when I was Executive Vice President of Finance at Walmart, first uh, person of color to be in that role, first woman to be in that role, first woman of color to be in that role, in the exact role that I occupied. Um, I thought I had a whole bunch of time, and went and had an executive physical and learned that I had cancer.
Oh, wow.
And when that happened, everything changed. It's one of the greatest blessings of my life. It came in a very ugly package. But without that cancer diagnosis, I would have gone about the business of thinking I had plenty of time. And I wouldn't have made the decision that I made when I heard the doctor confirm what I knew in my heart, that I had cancer. It's in that moment that I knew that I was going to have to leave Walmart, and that I was going to spend my time, lend my talents, whatever it is that I have. I was going to try to make a positive impact on the world in ways that I couldn't do, even at Walmart. So here I am.
You are a very strong and brave woman, and I I thank you for sharing it's very intimate detail of your life. Um, Black women empowerment we've been around for 12 years. A lot of people know, some people don't. And we've been committed to helping and uniting women and empowering them to follow their dreams and passion and purpose. That's really what it's about. Because if you're walking in your purpose, it becomes easy to work. I'm sure that you are aware of that. Um, who was your inspiration in getting you to where you are today?
Well, I've already teased it a little bit.
A little bit.
My mom. Oh my goodness, my mom, my mom, my mom. Um, my mom, in her example, not she she wasn't big on words, by the way. And I'm loquacious, so that came from my dad's side, is what she always told me. But um, my mom continues to be a source for me. I she she didn't graduate high school, but the other part of the story is she worked in the fields with her parents, and come harvest season, they needed extra hands. And she worked there, though she was brilliant. So the good part of the story, and I say good, I don't know if that's the right characterization, but my mother, as a result of what she gave up in terms of her education, every other one of her siblings were able to continue to go to school. And all of them were able to graduate at least from high school, and some beyond. Witnessing her example, she seemed, throughout my time knowing her, my whole life, she seemed responsible but not burdened. And I try to carry my responsibilities in that way as well, not as a victim, but as a person who has this unique chance to be of service. She seemed to live in gratitude and feel privileged in the opportunities that she had. Although life threw at her all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
curveballs, and sometimes they knocked her back, and sometimes she fell down. And yet she was so resilient. She found her way back up. And then probably the most powerful of the things are among, it's hard to say when you're talking about my mom, but among the most powerful things that she taught me, that I try my best to model, is that she saw value in everyone. And she had high expectations that people live into their value. And she didn't allow for a lot of excuses about that.
Sounds
So
like my mom.
so yeah, she was caring and compassionate. Um, but when she helped us understand who we were and what our capacity was, and when she helped us to find our path toward where the bar should be for us, um, she didn't ever countenance us trying to lower the bar. It was, well, you haven't done it yet, baby. So let's see, how are we going back at that one then? So many lessons. It's definitely my mom, my mom, my mom, my mom.
I feel the same way. So she was like my mom. Failure is not an option, right? I think that, a lot of us had, and my mother didn't graduate high school. She went to the 10th grade. One of the most brilliant women I've ever known. Yeah, but they pushed us into our destiny because they didn't do it. They wanted more for us.
Oh,
And
that's absolutely true. Definitely true of my mother. But she didn't lecture a lot. It was fascinating to me how little she said with words. And in fact, I remember a conversation I had with her where I was clamoring for her to say a certain thing. And she said, well, I thought I showed it. And I thought that's how she was wired. She was wired to show. So in moments like the tumultuous moments we've been in, people who work with me at Feeding America know that, for instance, when Mr. Floyd was murdered, and so many organizations were running to be the first to make the strongest statement of commitment, um, we were a little slower, uh, not because we weren't committed, but because it's my expectation, it's our expectation of ourselves, that we're not just going to say stuff. So we came up with what our plan was going to be and how we were going to be changed and how we were going to move into communities differently. And then we made commitments and we stated those commitments in public. And then we said, hold us to account and we will do these things. And we've been on a journey to do those things. That's modeling my mom. It's definitely modeling my mom.
I love it. So I'm going to switch over to Feeding America, and I actually have the website up. So it says, an America where no one is hungry. That's a very, very bold statement. We all deserve to have enough food to eat without worrying about if we can afford it. At Feeding America, we are working to make this reality by ensuring everyone can get the food they need with respect and dignity. What does that mean to you?
Well, there's so much wrapped up in that. Why don't I just focus in on the words as you said them? I've read them before. I helped to architect the words that are there, in fact, alongside other people. But when you read it that time, the parts that really stuck out for me were with dignity. And there is so much stigma in our society, so much stigma attached to the status of being poor, of not having access to resources. No matter what systems are in place that deny you that access, there's still stigma attached to that. And we endeavor and we execute imperfectly, but we endeavor at Feeding America across our network to ensure that people are seen when they show up in those lines, that whole people are seen, that they're afforded dignity and respect. Among the elements of dignity, for instance, is that we work really hard to ensure that people have access to choices. And they get to choose the food they say they need for their families. When we talk about dignity, Feeding America as a national organization engages in multiple efforts to listen deeply to communities, to prioritize what people experiencing hunger say that they want for themselves. We have a report called Elevating Voices to End Hunger Together, and it was the first of its kind report. And it started the year of the White House Conference on Hunger, Health, and Nutrition. We were in a unique position, and I remember I was called and asked to participate in that process. First time it had been done in over 50 years that there'd been such a convening. And I remember being pulled on to say, well, you should join this task force. Well, you're Feeding America. You're the CEO of Feeding America. You should do this. And the most elite task force is that one. And then you get access to so-and-so. And then you could do this and that. And then on my heart was put, I asked myself, and we asked ourselves as a network, what are we uniquely positioned to do for this conference that nobody else can actually do the way we could? And the answer that we came to was listen deeply to the voices of people experiencing hunger. Ask them what they want. Ask them what puts them in the line. Ask them what would get them out of the line. So we did that. And as we were doing it, we put in place an infrastructure to listen deeply and to learn. So that didn't become just a transaction that happened for a conference. It became a vibrant part of the process that we engage in at Feeding America to this day. So we listen deeply. We've actually had 2 Elevating Voices reports that have come out. It is going to continue. We will keep listening in lots of different ways. People tell you what they want if you sincerely ask them. The solutions to most problems lie with the people who are most impacted by those solutions. So we go into communities and ask communities, what do you want for yourself? They tell us. And then we try really hard to engage our resources to ensure that they get what they want and what they need in order to thrive. So dignity is about partnership. It's about recognizing ourselves as co-equals with different roles. It's about elevating people with living experience as having expertise that's valuable. It's about seeing whole people in those lines. It's about seeing ourselves as potentially being in those lines. It's about asking ourselves, what would you do? Would you get in that line if your kids didn't have any food that night?
Mm-hmm.
What would it take for you to be in that line? And then being dignified in the way that we approach the people who do.
That's one of the things that I love. Um, having just started serving on the board, and in Community Harvest, is that um, you know, we're not judging anybody because you don't know. You could be one meal away from hunger, one paycheck away from not having enough money to feed your family. It doesn't matter what your background is. We're seeing that where people are getting late, they're having layoffs and all of that. So you can't really look at a person and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be in this line." You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
to me, that's dignity. That
I
is, you're allowing people to request what they need without judging them, and
absolutely.
that's so crucial.
Absolutely. I talked about something that really I could have characterized it as a silver lining, right? So I had cancer. Um, that cancer was ugly, came in an ugly package. It was painful, 5 surgeries, neuropathy, all kinds of things. And yet here I am. And but for it, I would not be here. Well, COVID was like that in some ways too. So, um, one of the silver linings in that ugly, ugly, dark cloud that was COVID that came out was that more people actually asked themselves the questions that I've alluded to and that you have. They asked themselves, hey, if out of the blue, I lost my job, which happened with a lot of people, and we were watching it happen, right? Um, and my spouse lost, and our partner lost his or her job. How long would it take me to be on that line? And the empathy shown during COVID was off the charts. The amount of generosity, the amount of grace people extended to other people was off the charts. Um, and and I've been told that while sympathy is important, that empathy is the acting emotion. And empathy, you see yourself in that situation, and you ask, what would I want for me? Or you see your kid in that situation, and what would I want for them? Or you see your grandma or your granddad in that situation, what would I want for him? Um, and it's inside of that emotion that we tend to do something, to be a part of some positive change. So we're still working to ensure that we make progress. I say that all my pain has to pay. Well, cancer was painful. It's paying. Here I am. It's my privilege to serve as CEO of Feeding America. COVID has been and still is painful. How's COVID going to pay? How's it going to pay forward? And I think one of the ways it can is with us showing up and engaging with people experiencing hunger in a much more dignified way.
Absolutely. And with the inflation, because you go shopping, I go shopping. The food, $100 gets you just basically nothing anymore.
So
So the
you're
whole
right.
the whole game has changed, Claire. Um, you find yourself I never had to watch what I bought. I just like put stuff in the cart, don't even look at the price. But that's all changed.
It has. And what often happens, and in fact, I heard the expression for the first time during COVID, going back to COVID, um, is that people say, "Oh, we're all um, in the same boat." And I heard someone say, "Well, actually, no, not really. We may all be in the same storm. We're not all." It's always true that inside challenge there's some people who have to confront extra challenges, right? And this economy has been thriving in lots of ways, and I'm happy that it is. I'm not a zero sum person. I'm not disposed that way. I want to celebrate everyone's successes. I want everyone to be positioned to be successful also. And with inflation, inflationary pressures have gone down in some places. Look, gas prices, they're much lower than they had been when they spiked. But with food, they've been stubbornly high. And with nutritious food, they're especially stubbornly high. So to your point, the same $100 does not get you the same amount of food. So going back to this notion, bringing back in this notion of dignity and asking people experiencing hunger what they want for themselves, and treating them as the people with expertise that they are, especially if you signed up to do the work that I do. Um, People experiencing hunger tell us that they care about their health. They actually don't need someone else to come in and tell them you should care about your health. They tell us, and this is the expression, the example I always use, or I often use, they actually know the difference between lettuce and a Snicker bar. A lack of resources does not mean that somehow with your resources, with a lack of resources, you have less brain cells. In fact, you're likely to be more resilient. You're likely to be more industrious because you have to be. So when you respect people experiencing hunger and you ask them what's happening with them, they'll tell you that, for instance, as it relates to inflation, Dr. King, that they're still having to make really, really tough choices. Because while they know the difference between nutritional value between lettuce and a Snicker bar, only one of them is going to get them through the night shift.
Right.
So we've got to really be thoughtful about not only providing access to food, but we have to be thoughtful about the food that we provide and ensuring that the foods that we provide and have higher and higher nutritional value. And you would know from the work that you're doing at the food bank, we're working really hard to increase the nutritional density of the food that we provide. And we've been making real progress. So I don't know if your listeners had heard of food banks before, but if they did, especially if they knew of food banks long ago, they probably have one image of what a food bank is, right? They probably think, okay, so that's where you get the processed government cheese. And by the way, I'm not really going to sleep on government cheese because I actually like the taste of government cheese and I've had it before, but you don't want government cheese to be the only option that anyone has, certainly. So these highly processed foods is what people think about when they think of food banks. Some people think about when they think of food banks. And while we continue to have shelf-stable foods available, we have precipitously increased the amount of fresh produce that people can count on us for, the amount of dairy that people can count on us for, the amount of healthy proteins that people can count on us for. And we're doing it at a time when it costs more. So unlike others who might come on your show and they're selling books, and again, no problem with capitalism. That's not what I'm saying. If you want to sell a book, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that the work that we do at Feeding America is so foundational to everybody in a community thriving. When you make certain people have access to the food they need and to the nutrition that they need, they're well positioned to go on and live the American dream more fully. And that helps everybody in the community, not just the person who received the food. And right now that COVID has ebbed a bit, it doesn't feel the same as it did before. We are no longer in the public eye in the way that we used to be. So inflationary prices, we've got food at really, really high rates, especially nutritious food. Our donations are down, and our access to government commodities is down. But last year, the USDA again came out with its annual food insecurity rates. They're at the highest rate that they had been since the financial crisis, way back in the 2009 area. I mean, that's tragic. What's also tragic is that right before that, when we had all of the aids coming in, COVID aid coming in, we saw significant decreases in food insecurity rates. So it's bad, and then there could be a silver lining. So we saw during that time what works. We saw that when you invest in things like child tax credit, that you eradicate, you lift millions of children out of poverty with the child tax credit. We saw that when you invest in emergency food, which is important, and you also like government commodities, but you also invest in foods in SNAP, the SNAP program, formerly known as food stamps. When you invest in WIC, so women, infants, and children get the nutrition that they need, especially in those critically important early years where there is irreversible damage can happen if we don't make certain that these babies get access to nutrition that they need. But when you do those things, they work. So we know they work. And when we stop doing them, the numbers spiked. When my kids were little, Dr. King, I used to tell them that they couldn't use words that they couldn't define. And I remember my son saying duh to me one day. And I said, son, well, you can't use words. Remember, you can't use words that you can't define. I'm happy to grab you a dictionary and we can find. He said, well, isn't it obvious? I said, yes, it is obvious because your whole life I've been telling you this. He said, no, Mom, duh means, well, isn't it obvious? And I said, oh. So ever since, Dr. King, I now use duh. So I'm going to come back in with what happened between the years when we were doing all the things that we know that work and the year when food insecurity rates skyrocketed is a duh. Of course it happened. That's what will happen when you don't invest in communities by making certain that people are getting access to the food that they need.
I love that. I love that story. You remind me of my grandson, who I was just with in Florida. But listen, so you're doing a lot with the farmers. I noticed. Is that helping?
Oh my, yes it is. Yes it is. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about that. So what we have, this initiative, this endeavor, this way of working, that's really starting to permeate everything that we do. But what you're talking about in particular, I believe, is the Food Security Equity Impact Fund. And during the pandemic, when there was all of this attention, all of the spotlight, big spotlight on people experiencing hunger because of those long lines, backing up traffic and filling parking lots, that got the attention of some philanthropists, including Mackenzie Scott. And Mackenzie Scott gave gifts, made investments really in food banks and communities all across the country. And then uncharacteristically made an investment in the national organization at Feeding America. And when we received that gift, I honestly didn't know what to do with it. Like, I don't understand. Why would Mackenzie Scott, she's so focused on local solutions. Why would she make a gift to a national organization? And I thought, well, okay, well, what if we live into the principles of her giving with the gift she gave us? And what we did was we formed the Food Security Equity Impact Fund. We took all the seed money, $20 million that came from Mackenzie Scott, and put it into that fund. And every dime of it has to be used with two very important rules. One, the money has to be used to decrease disparities by race and place. And two, Feeding America doesn't make any of the other rules. Those are the rules. So instead of Feeding America from some ivory tower deciding what communities need, we use it as a platform to go into communities and ask communities what they want for themselves. And some of the incredible unlocks you just alluded to have been in the form of engagements that we have with farmers. So we, for instance, will provide a grant. That grant might be used. I'll give you one that's very, very close to me. So my family, the Fontenot clan, made a contribution to the Food Security Equity Impact Fund. We asked at the time that the proceeds, that funding go to the town we're from and the town we live in. So some went to Chicago, the rest of it went to Opelousas, Louisiana. In Opelousas, Louisiana, there's a farm that's been the Chenier family have had for many, many generations, since before my grandparents were sharecroppers back there. And they've owned that land for many generations. And that the farm was starting to struggle. And they have a great grandson who was thinking there was no path for him to pass that on to the next generation. So with the investments that were made, they were able to get tractors and infrastructure. They used that then to grow crops. And then the Feeding America Network, through Second Harvest of New Orleans and Acadiana, purchased the produce from that farm and then used that purchased produce inside of the network to make certain that people in the community have access to the food that they need. So a whole ecosystem was built as a result of that. And it perpetuates itself so that the Chenier farm is thriving today. We got to have our finger, the way I talk about being catalytic, which is what our desire is to be catalytic. It's like putting your finger on a domino when all the dominoes are lined up. And if we could just have our finger on the first domino, and then we can get out of the way, right? And that's what we're trying to do. And that's happening all across the country, lots of grants in lots of places. Actually learned something in that process about something that I did and that my family did, and we've stepped away from since, which is, in that case, we meant well, as most donors do, but we actually were kind of prescriptive, right? So we said, we want our money to go to Opelousas and Chicago, Illinois. And possibly because I was the CEO of the organization at the time, they said, okay, sure. And they did it. We've made contributions since, and we've not done that. One of the really essential elements of unlocks is trust. And we are no longer being directive in the gifts or the investments that we make. We're showing trust by saying, this money will go into the fund. And then the people inside of communities will determine its best use. And we will trust them to know what its best use is. So that's where we are today. We made contributions, personal contributions to the fund. And we ask anyone who has an interest in these locally based initiatives and solutions that invest in Black farmers in ways that they are often ignored with. And where we see examples all across the country of thriving ecosystems, then the Food Security Equity Impact Fund is the fund for you.
I love that. I want to shout out Carmen. I call her my friend and my boss, Carmen Cumberland. She's on. Hi, Carmen. And she is the CEO. See, I don't mess up. She's CEO of Community Harvest Food Bank. Is that right? Did I say it right?
I think you did.
Carmen, love you so much. And yeah, I'm so excited to be on the board this time, because we have been doing food banks. If anyone follows us, we've been doing food drives for 12 years. We started back in Greensboro, and I remember being interviewed on a TV station, and the lady said, let me get this right. You're a nonprofit and you're actually raising money for another nonprofit. And I said, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. because we don't have our own food bank. So, I mean, help is help. Doesn't matter at what form it comes in. If you're giving back, you're just giving back, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad. Hi, Carmen. I get to say hi to Carmen too. Hello, Carmen. Extraordinary human, great leader. Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. Having visited the community is in great hands with both of you and all the other people on the team. And in fact, you were talking about it, help is help. And I love that you clearly don't have a zero sum kind of mentality. You're not bringing competition into the nonprofit space, which is, we could have a whole conversation about that. I didn't even know that was a thing until I joined the nonprofit space. I'm like, what? Wait, all of these people from all of these organizations want the same things for the same people. What if we work together instead?
Exactly.
But something I was going to say that this now gives me an opportunity, an opening to say, is people, we are a network that includes a national organization, which is where I am the CEO. And in that capacity, we provide funding, we provide food, and we do advocacy work on behalf of communities. And the primary resource through which we make the greatest impact as a national organization would be local food banks like the one that you just described, that Carmen's the lead of. And sometimes people will ask me, well, should I give to Feeding America National or should I give to my local food bank? I said, well, let me make it easy for you. If it's either or, choose your backyard. If it's either or for you, if you don't have the capacity to do both, choose your own backyard. Be neighborly. Give to that food bank. And at feedingamerica.org, the website you alluded to before, Dr. King, they can go on and there's a food bank locator. And you put the zip code in of whatever community you love the most. And there will be a food bank that's serving that community. And then my encouragement to you is go engage inside of that community. And it might be more than one. Maybe you met your boo in one place and you want to celebrate on your 20th anniversary. You want to celebrate that place where you met your partner. There's a food bank serving that place. If you haven't lived at home in a long time and you want to do something to give back to your hometown, there's a food bank serving that place. And then wherever it is that you live, because there's a food bank serving every community in the whole United States of America and Puerto Rico. So there's a food bank serving that community. So please be a partner with that food bank. And then if in addition to that, you've got room to spare, you got extra, I encourage you to also engage at a national level because we get to have a bird's eye view of where we do pulse surveys. So we have a sense of where the needs are all across the country. Like during a disaster is a time when people find it uniquely valuable because they don't have to monitor where the storm hit. There will be a food bank that was there before, during, and after that storm, no matter what it is, wildfire, hurricane, whatever it is. There is a food bank that will be there before, during, and after to pick up the pieces the whole time. So as a national organization, we're able to actually take resources. So you just get to say, I want to help with the wildfire. And then we then take that money and make certain it gets to the communities that are being impacted. So the national organization can be an effective way for people. We can do some of the work for you, if you will, in trying to figure these things out. And then we have national initiatives that you might want to participate in, like Food Security Equity Impact Fund, that might go to your backyard, but it might go to a backyard of somebody else, somewhere else in the country. But so just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to say that to Dr. King. So thank you for giving me room.
I encourage all of our followers, and somehow or another we had a glitch on Facebook. I'm looking at it. I'm going to rerun the broadcast as soon as we get off, but for some reason it didn't connect to Facebook. So, but we're going to rerun it. But to all of our listeners, I know firsthand this is a great organization. Actually, Claire, I saw you. I was watching TV and I saw you with the president of Jersey Mike's. I said, oh, there's my girl.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things is to do the Jersey Mike's commercials. And what's really fun about it, in many ways, Jersey Mike's is a great partner, and we have many, many great partners. but it always happens around Thanksgiving, getting close to Thanksgiving. Um, and all of the people who participate in this can go out on that weekend. So you'll know, because they do a great job of advertising
They
it.
really do.
They do. And that weekend, you go to Jersey Mike's, and 20% of the proceeds comes to Feeding America. Together, we have fed, I believe it's over 40, well, I'm sure it's over 40 million meals to people as a result of that partnership. And the Big Kahuna happens to be my favorite thing on the menu. It is a spicy sandwich, and it's awesome. But choose your own and go out during that weekend. You'll get another chance this year. And we'll be coming to you. And what I also like, Dr. King, is that because Jersey Mike's commercials, they're in different places. They're on the Hallmark Channel, and they're also in the middle of NFL football. So it's funny to me. I learn I know what you've been watching based upon whether or not you told me that you saw the commercial, right? And it's been really fun that it's this whole broad swath. And it's defied stereotypes for me, because there certainly have been women who've been watching a football game who saw that commercial. And there have been men who are watching a Hallmark special who saw the commercial as well. One more time, as women of color, as Black women, knowing that one cannot get the whole of who someone is by looking at them from the outside. We each get to be individuals. We are not a monolith, though we do share some experiences pretty consistently. We are not a monolith.
Absolutely.
Nor are people who consume Hallmark romance shows or NFL football games.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where I thought I was watching The Young and the Restless or something like that. But
there you go. That's what I'm saying. I could probably were, because we did. It was there too. It was there too.
But I'm from New Jersey, so
Ah.
I grew up in New Jersey. So Jersey Mike's, we're original, and so I love the chicken cheesesteak. That's my favorite.
The Big Kahuna has chicken cheese, by the way. So there you go. There you go. Yes, yes.
But this is good. So I encourage all of our followers, get involved. I mean,
Yes.
you never know when it might be you that has, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to feel bad for. Just know that Feeding America is there for you. And while you can be there for others. So go to feedingamerica.org and make a donation, or find your local food bank and get involved. It's so rewarding. I always say, God blesses us to be a blessing.
Yes.
And when you're blessing others, you're in fact, like you said earlier, blessing yourself. Because my grandfather was a pastor, and so I grew up in the church. And I remember a song, "You Can't Beat God Giving, no matter how hard you try." I don't know if you remember that, Claire.
I don't. I'm going to pull that one up.
That is yeah. And so it's the same. You can't outbeat God giving, because when you give, he blesses you even the more, to be even more of a blessing. And that's my belief. But Claire, you are so amazing. I could actually talk to you all day.
Same back.
You're so inspiring. And I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this for us. Our 4 million plus followers will get to see you, and hopefully you have impacted them as much as you have impacted me, as not only as the CEO of Feeding America, but as a beautiful Black queen sister. You have. I mean, you have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have to respond in kind. You are a phenomenal woman, to quote Maya. And I love to see someone who's leveraging all of her platforms for good. And you clearly are doing all of that. And if I could leave your community, that's what I think of this group as, a community, with one thing, I think it would be, you're not broken. Don't let society convince you that you are. You were built especially and well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll say, you said before we got on, we fall down, but we get up.
Yes.
God bless you. Thank you so much. We'll do this again, Claire. Maybe we'll just make this a yearly thing. So
I
we can
like
come
that
back
idea.
and talk about what the new things that are happening. Thank you so much. As always, you all know I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Follow us at blackwomenempowereddirectory.com and have a blessed day.